Speaking of tickets,
money,
Ontario
charges.
farmers could be paying more for their fertilizer.
This is a
this
huge
year.
story. This is a huge story, everyone. I can't emphasize it enough, actually.
This has been kind of bubbling in the background for a few months at this point because farming, agriculture is very cyclical, very seasonal.
Yep.
So these things usually come up in advance. So the article from Sudbury.com says tariffs imposed on Russian imports paired with already high fertilizer costs are causing challenges. So with temperatures warming up, farmers are preparing for the next season, but for many, uncertainty around the supply of fertilizer may hamper their plans. They're dealing with Canadian farmers are dealing with rising fertilizer costs and limited supply, thanks to tariffs imposed on imports. And that country supplies much of the fertilizer used by farmers in eastern Canada.
Yeah. So, President Biden the other day, and I know, like you said, there's been some talk going on for a while.
This has been in the works for a while, yeah.
And they said there could be, shaping up that if these factors come together along with the war that's happening and the sanctions on Russia, because a lot of our fertilizer does come from Russia.
That area.
And Ukraine is one of the hugest exporters of wheat. Those two things together, along with other factors, breakdowns in our supply chain, for one.
Yep.
Economic too, like inflation.
Yep.
All kinds of factors is making for the perfect storm of a food shortage. And that's what President Biden actually came out and said there
He actually did, yeah.
will be. He didn't say there may be. And so that alone, now whether or not he meant to say it, because the White House lately, he's been saying a lot of things and then they've had to come out and say, oh, actually, he didn't really mean to say that. They've been kind of circling back.
They might need some of the Disney people to work at the White House because Disney's been really good at spinning that stuff. Like whenever there's a leak or something for one of their big movies, they kind of play it off as like
we meant that to happen. Yeah,
and they leave you guessing of like,
did they or
was
did they not?
Paul Rudd supposed to say that?
Yeah,
or was that a slip? And they kind of leave it ambiguous. So.
Well, yeah, maybe they can hire the people at Disney.
So we're speculating now, but
no, Biden
he definitely did say
he did say there's going to be a food shortage. Now, food starts with fertilizer. Again, it's one of the basic elements. You need fertilizer, you need ground, you need moisture. Some of these basic things, seeds, to grow food at least. We're not talking livestock or whatever, but growing food, you need all those elements. And fertilizer, if you don't have it, I mean, you're just basically hoping that it will grow and you'll have enough
There's no nutrients
in the soil that you're currently using, which is usually very mineral deficient because it's been farmed so much over the years that it's depleted the mineral content. And we don't let our fields kind of be either. Now, I know there's probably someone who has knowledge of farming says, oh, this is done and that's done. But in the corporate world, in the huge farming
the majority of farms,
this is the way it's kind of done. And fertilizer is a huge part of it because it's an unnatural, in a way of just kickstarting and making sure that food has the nutrients to grow what it needs. So if we don't have that, we don't have fertilizer. What does that mean down the road? Like if you look a year from now, the cycle when you're going to harvest your crops, it starts this spring.
Yeah. No, it's true. That's true. It when things like this happen, it makes me question. I think of a lecture I watched not too long ago, but it was from 2008. And if you remember, there was a lot of talk about 10 years ago about corn, because corn is the most important grain in North America.
In our society, I would say, right?
Yeah,
because
overall.
It's become part of so many
things.
things.
It's the most farmed crop. So it's really, really important In Canada too, like in the prairies, it's really, really important crop, and in southern Ontario as well. So there's a lot of talk about that, and how many years ago was it now that they started the movement to put ethanol into gasoline?
Mm-hmm. That was a few years ago.
And there was a lot of kind of controversy around maybe this was like a corn lobby thing, because it pushes up the price of corn if it's required in all the fuel.
For sure. And it means you get more, you can sell more of your product because it's now
a lot of it
in all the gas. Like definitely it's
like a guaranteed customer
for sure
for their product. So the idea was, should we really be competing with all these other countries for their food just to have fuel in our cars, arguably to lower emissions in cars? And that was kind of a debate. I don't think they really debate that anymore. I think now it's just the status quo. We just produce more corn, so it's all good. But at the time, it was kind of like this, well, there's not enough of it, so where do we allocate the corn? And to me, like when something like this happens, when the slack is pulled taut in the system, it brings to mind stuff like that. And it's like, how much are we doing that's just essentially a waste, but that's just the way that we do it, so we're just going to keep doing that.
I think our society is
There's a big argument to be made,
stuff.
like maybe we're not doing things the most efficient way
Mm-hmm.
because there's other incentives in place. And then you start to wonder, like, well, we feed cattle the last few months of their life, we feed them on corn typically.
Yep.
And that's like a really efficient way to fatten up the cow before they...
And other livestock, I think, as well.
Others as well, yeah. But cows are, I think cows are, the most important livestock as far as surface area and the amount of food. So, like, that's a lot of our food supplies coming from that. So are we just suddenly going to say, no more corn? Like, it's a really efficient way to do it. So, I don't know. At times like these, when there are shortages on inputs, it kind of brings to question, how are we using the resources, and are we using them in the most effective way? And hopefully we are. Hopefully that this blows over, or the food shortages are kind of less important.
Well, it's something, and I would say, if you want to prepare for a rainy day, here we're back to our rainy day thing, you may want to get, I think the standard is 3 months to be kind of almost prepared for anything, because you want to be prepared if there's
for a shock,
an ice storm, a flood, it's a blizzard and you're kind of snowed in for a while. You kind of have to prepare for the things where you live, and food is also part of that. You want to have a little reserve.
I think it gives you bargaining power in a way, because the way I see it is, personally, I don't picture there being like widespread empty shelves
overnight.
In that way, overnight.
No.
I think some of the food items you like might be unavailable. That's basically what this might look like.
And cost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go up.
You won't have a choice if you don't have any stored food or built up reserves. You just won't have a choice of what you take and what you don't.
Yeah.
So it gives you more freedom, more flexibility.
Yeah. Either way, we're going to keep following up on this, talking to local growers, right, and see how they're impacted by the fertilizer shortage. Because I think even if there's a shortage, the price. So this is the thing: when you can get the fertilizer, it's going to cost you.
It's going to be more.
A lot more. So what does that mean?
The downstream effects.
That's right. So there's scarcity of what the final product's going to be in the food. Plus it costs way more to actually grow it. So no matter what, again, this whole price thing going up, it's not a speculative thing.
It's going to happen.
We're going to have a lot of prices going up. You thought the gas was interesting. Well, you already see the food going up. It's going to continue.
Yeah.
And so they've raised the minimum wage, like we talked about earlier, I think, to kind of address that. And they proposed taking off 5 cents off the gas to kind of combat that thing. They know we're heading into higher prices, and they're trying to make some decisions that'll soften the blow. But I don't think it's going to be softened too much where it's not going to impact people on a large scale.
Sure.